Hey guys, it's Caillea. Welcome back to the Mystery of the Celestial Triangle, Part 1B, St. Louis's Forest Park and the Eclipses. We're going to pick up where we left off in Part 1. We are heading over here to Forest Park, and this is the site of the 1904 World's Fair. It is also right next to Washington University, which is where they held the 1904 Olympic Games for the Summer Olympics. Kind of an interesting little side story on that. Chicago was actually awarded those Olympic Games, and the organizers of the expo threw a fit and said that they were going to organize their own games and overshadow the Olympics in Chicago. And a member of the selection committee for the Olympic Games changed their mind and awarded the games to St. Louis so that there would not be any competition. So you can see right here that I've got Forest Park up. I've got an overlay of the World's Fair map on top of the current park. And you'll notice that it is upside down. I've got north and south marked for you. But you can kind of just see what the layout was and what is new versus what existed at that point in time. Okay, so this is just kind of a zoomed in shot of that map of the World's Fair and a couple things that I wanted to point out. Now, they tell us that all of this was built in just a couple of years. The only thing that was a permanent structure and that remains today is going to be the Palace of Fine Arts. Everything else was supposedly built to be temporary and was then leveled, and Forest Park turned back into, it was already a park before the World's Fair. They were turning it back into a park afterwards. Now, one of the things that I noticed, I might be stretching here, but I don't think so. The Philippines exhibit very much resembles a human eye to me. And I think that as we go through this, you'll see that, there's maybe a little more evidence for that as we go along. But that's the only thing I really wanted to point out about the 1904 World's Fair. I'm not going to cover that. Other people have covered it in great detail, and I have linked some really great videos in the description box below to learn all about that World's Fair. Okay, so this is Forest Park today, and here is one of the craziest things I think I've ever noticed in geomancy in all of my time of research. And that is the baby that I found right here in the park. So I'm going to go back to Google Earth real quick and zoom in to this section. It is this right here that I am referring to. So this is the Pagoda Park, and this is the Opera House. And we're going to go back right over here to the slide so that you can kind of look and see what I'm talking about. This right here in the upper right-hand corner is the original design. So the landscaped architect that was awarded the contract to change the park back into a park after the World's Fair, this was his drawing, his concept of this area. And I want you to notice a couple of things about it. So this would be the embryo's eye and the placenta going around the embryo. The Opera House is operating in some respects as a placenta to this embryo. And the umbilical cord is, I'm going to show you that, but it's coming out right here. And then there's this really interesting thing going into the embryo's head from outside of the placenta. And we're going to look at that a little bit closer as well. So we've got the embryo, and then we have the Muni Opera House. And it is the largest outdoor amphitheater performing arts stadium in the country. And I think that the reason that the amphitheater is right next to the embryo has to do with harmonics and sound. So this would be the eyeball from the World's Fair map transferred over to what they did with the park. But again, it is literally the creepiest thing I have ever seen geomantically in all of my research. Okay, so I traced the umbilical cord from the baby back to Gateway Park, to the womb, and it's actually a continuous shot. This is Forest Park Boulevard, and it just dumps right over here onto Market Street and goes right back up to Gateway Park, straight to the womb. Okay, so now let's look at where we saw where the umbilical cord ran off to. Now let's look at where this thing coming out of the baby's brain. So if this is some kind of a tether cord, this is the baby's eye again. So this would be representative of the brain with the spinal fluid and the spinal column coming down like this. And even the fact that the spine continues on into these other bodies of water, I think is significant. But I'm most interested in where the brain is connected to. So I've followed the water, and it disappears, comes under here, under the road, and over here to this water. And I'm going to turn on the labeling because I thought this was an interesting. So this area of the park is called the Cascades. And I think that we might find some more clues as to what this baby's brain is hooked up to when we get over to that part of the triangle in the Cascade Range. All right, and then I think it's also fitting, they put the zoo in here, and with the 1904 World's Fair, they had the human zoo. Oh, look at that, the Monsanto Insectarium. They're great sponsors of philanthropy. Do you remember the ellipse that we looked at yesterday? Let's just flash back to that really quick. Or Kiner Plaza Park. There are 21 trees planted in this ellipse. I decided not to get too much into numerology or gematria in this, so as to keep it on the brief side. And I would be here for hours if I really dug into the gematria of all of this. But this ellipse has 19 trees planted on its perimeter, as opposed to the other one that is 21. So those are the most obvious things that I noticed about Forest Park. I don't know how much more you could really even go beyond that. I mean, the baby is crazy. There's also this 8-pointed star fountain over here in the upper right-hand corner that's worth making a note of. Again, this is really one of the most disturbing pieces of geomancy I could even imagine. The thing in the baby's brain bothers me quite a bit, but we're gonna see. We're gonna follow it to its end. We're gonna go to the Cascades. Okay, let's move on to, we've seen the umbilical cord, the brain stem. Now let's move on to the eclipses. Okay, so in St. Louis, there are a total of 3 total eclipses that are listed. And I did find more than that because it doesn't include a couple of ones that it crosses on the fringe. But we're going to look at that a little bit later. So this is the 2017 eclipse over the top of the arch, the progression of totality. And the inset picture is a filtered view of the totality. And again, it looked like an eyeball to me. So that's the third eyeball reference that I have found in this whole thing. And when I have 3 witnesses to something, I include it, whether it seems to be relevant or not. Let's look at the first eclipse that I was able to find in totality over St. Louis. And this occurred on July 7th, so 7/7/1442. And the path of totality is marked on the map to the left of the stellarium shot. And looking at stellarium, you can see that this eclipse took place right smack in the tail of Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. It is cardinal water. It is the divine feminine. It is ruled by the moon. So this would be a very powerful moon magic type of eclipse. It's also got considerable gematria and numerology going on in the specifics of the moon's location, particularly being at supergalactic longitude of 55 degrees. This is going to come up over and over again. Its J2000 ecliptic longitude is 121 degrees. The next eclipse is going to be the 1869, August 7th, 1869. Again, this eclipse took place in the sign of Cancer, and this time in the claw of Cancer. Mercury is there with this eclipse. The last eclipse in 1772, Venus was present with that one. And if you will remember, Venus rules Taurus, and that's a big part of our silver gate equation. And Mercury rules Gemini, which is the other part of our silver gate equation. And we're even going to get that third component of the silver gate, Orion, here in just a minute. I have shown the path of totality for the August 7th, 1869 eclipse on this map right up here in the upper left-hand corner. And then we're going to go to the 2017 eclipse. Now, this one took place in the sign of Leo. And if you will remember what I said about the Lion's Gate opens when the sun is in the sign of Leo. So the 2017 Lion's Gate dates were August 10th to September 6th. And that means the sun was in Leo from August 10th to September 6th. And the max Lion's Gate opening was on August 17th. So that's going to be the center of that 10-day window that I talked about in the introductory video about the Lion's Gate. So the max time, that 10-day window, would have been from August 12th to August 22nd. And August 17th being right smack in the middle of it. This is 4 days before the August 2017 eclipse that we just looked at. So 4 days beforehand, and the sun is in its optimal place right smack above the paw of Leo. The sun is at 144 degrees galactic longitude, and it's got some interesting numerology in the amount of time it is up. The daylight is 1331, and also in its rise and set time, we see 19 repeated twice. Then flipping over to the moon, we get Orion, because the moon is the closest to the tip of Orion's club that we will ever see it. It is right there at the juncture of the Silver Gate during this eclipse. It's at exactly 90 degrees. And again, the numerology for its rise, set, and transit is a lot of 17s. Its parallactic is 55. But we get that 21 with the percent that the moon is illuminated. All right, the 2024 eclipse is going to take place on April 8th at 2:01 p.m. St. Louis time. Now notice where this eclipse is located. It is right in the river of Pisces, and it is flanked on either side in Pisces with Mercury and Venus, all of the players. So the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Venus are all the players that we've been talking about for the spell of St. Louis and the Silver Gate, and they're all right here together. I also believe that this is an indicator that Pisces is finished, that we are firmly going to be in Aquarius following this eclipse. Now, there's always a transition time, and it's hard to tell when the transition begins and ends. There are indicators that we can look for in the heavens, and this to me would be a really good indicator that the eclipse is occurring in Pisces. Moving on, I want to show you all of these eclipses that we've talked about together, and why the juncture of the triangle, along with the triangle that forms naturally on the other side, and the crossing of these two eclipses in 2017 and 2024 are so important. And the reason is because it's not just the 2017 and 2024 eclipses. It is the 2017, the 2024, the 1442, the 1808, the 1869. They all converge right here at at the crossing of these triangles and the crossing of the 2017 and 2024 eclipse. In this relative area right here, we have got a total of 5 eclipses that take place at this juncture from 1442 to 2024. And in doing so, in adding the 1442 and the 2024 eclipses to this map, which was the most complete map that I could find, I just had to add these two in, I was able to see another pattern emerge. So we've got the 5 eclipses in the center, and then you've got 4 at the Charleston, South Carolina mark, and you've got another 4 right off the coast of Boston. And then flipping over to the west, in the center, if we put a circle in our triangle, in our main triangle, we come up with this 3 that is right smack in the center. It's this little orange triangle that is right there in the center of it. And I believe that this is a very significant pivot point for what's going on with the sacred geometry in the country. And each time we see these numbers of eclipses pop up, they seem to triangulate, because I could triangulate these and these. I could triangulate really all of them. But for simplicity's sake, and I know this isn't a simple map, but I did the best I could. But for simplicity's sake, I decided to not crowd the map any more than it already is. But that is what I believe is the major reason for all the weird stuff going on in St. Louis. They are trying to harness all of this energy into their ritual that they're doing. And what the purpose is for the ritual, your guess is as good as mine. But it represents to me the April 2024 eclipse is going to complete a very large cycle. There are 581 years, 9 months, and 1 day between that 1442 eclipse and the 2024 eclipse. And that turns into 212,482 days. When we add all that together, we get 19. And of course, 19 is 1 plus 9 equals 10, which reduces to 1. And that indicates the completion of the cycle. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I am excited to keep on this journey with you guys. Look for part 2 shortly, and we will move on from St. Louis and start heading west. Much love, guys.